We chose to go with consensus as our decision-making process because we were already familiar with it, and because of the many benefits that it brings in terms of higher quality decisions, full buy-in from all members, a very egalitarian power sharing system, and it's worked really well for us over the years, and we're very happy with how that's gone. And I think it creates a certain culture that, in the same way that a democracy is not just about, that you get to elect, your representative to the government. It permeates everything in your culture. And so in the same way that voting does in our wider American culture, consensus does that at Dancing Rabbit. So at this point, we make all of our major decisions that way, but within that structure, we do a lot of delegating to committees, delegating to individuals. We do actually have a board of directors who has some final authority over our land trust and our nonprofit, and so, but their power rests in the consensus of the membership that controls who is selected for those board positions, and can control fairly significantly what kind of decisions they can make. Do I think that we'll use consensus long term? I think we'll use it in a lot of different ways, but I'm not sure that we'll use full consensus of the entire membership long term. I think it's very possible to do that with hundreds of people. I think that it's not necessarily what we'll choose to invest our energy in terms of, based on the number of decisions that we need to make, that by living together, by the amount of things that affect each other, that we will prefer to streamline our process and create ways that we can make decisions that don't require full consensus of the group. And you can look at that as just continuing to delegate more and more to committees. And I expect that someday that we'll have something akin to a town council. They'll probably use consensus to make decisions, and they'll be selected by the group, and it's unclear whether, at some level the question of whether that decision making is still consensus is whether a single individual can override a decision. If we continue to allow that, then in my opinion we're still using consensus at some level, or a consensus-based system, even if it's we consensus on this town council, they make the most of the decisions, but if one person objects, it can be overridden. I'm not sure we'll stick with that, because we have already had some experience where challenging individuals can have, a big detrimental effect on community process, and I think we might choose to insulate ourselves from a really challenging personality dynamic, and go with some system that's like a super majority. Could be 90%, 80%, 70% majority, or that it would take at least 10% or 15% of people to recall a decision of the town council. To me, that's still a very democratic decision-making system, and I think could be more efficient time-wise for a larger group. And to me, what's most important is not consensus per se, but that for people to really feel like they're participating democratically, to me that means that when there's a decision that affects them, they can affect change, they can affect what decision is made, and they feel empowered in that process. It doesn't really matter what the process is, as long as they feel that they can be empowered when that comes up. And so as long as we can hold that goal and that vision, I'm happy with whatever decision-making system we come up with. We chose to set up our system so that it was affordable to live here and to have no buy-in fee to join, because we wanted sustainable living to be accessible to as wide a swath of people as possible. We didn't want it to be something that only the people with access to resources, the well-off, could participate in. And so we've tried. So that's a value that we take from our egalitarian, background, and so we still manifest that, in our systems now. And well, it's not a full success in the sense that it still does cost money to get yourself set up here. I mean, unless you're willing to like live in a tent or sleep in a tree or something like that, you're still going to need to build some sort of housing or rent housing or something like that. And so it does take money to live here. And we don't have the type of system like a community like Twin Oaks or East Wind that it's income sharing, where it's like when you show up, you can have nothing in your pocket and no assets to your name, and we'll give you a bedroom, we'll give you a job to do, and you then become as full a member of the community as everyone else. There's a few, I mean, there's income sharing people here at Dancing Rabbit in subgroups where you can do that, but as a full group, we don't provide that. So it's fairly economically accessible, but not as accessible as an income sharing group. Within the community, we have people who have a variety of incomes, or a diversity of incomes. We have people who have a diversity of sort of access to resources, access to assets, whether those are financial for some people. For others, it's skills or physical strength to be able to build things. And so you get some very interesting dynamics where some people feel very limited because they don't have money. Other people feel limited because they don't have the skills or the know-how or the ability, or think they don't at least, to like build their own home. And so it's interesting, like who feels sort of rich, or who feels, like they have access to, the means that they need to achieve what they want. We get people all over the map, and we have people who really do have like, hardly a penny to their name, that really live, you could say hand to mouth, but it's really, only in the best sense of it, in the way that a forager lives hand to mouth. We have other people who struggle with their finances, even though they have more access to resources or don't. We have people who have come in from the wider culture, and if they've already owned a home in the wider culture that they can sell, or have savings from many years of working, they can be rich by Dancing Rabbit standards because it costs so little to live here. There's some dynamics in the community around money. I wouldn't call them class dynamics. I think, or there's almost two different things to me. There's like class dynamics can be about culture. It can be about, did you grow up, what was your relationship to money when you were growing up? What did your parents do? What was your relationship to education? What did your family do for entertainment? Like those end up being these like cultural class dynamics that can be completely tangential to whether people have money. And then around money, there's how much you have, and then there's like how do you feel about how much you have. There's people who have, thousands of dollars in the bank, but they feel like they have a scarcity. They don't feel rich. They don't feel like they worry about money all the time. There's other people who have nothing in the bank and they don't worry at all. Or there's people who have tons of debt, but they feel confident about their ability to pay it off. All of those things are a factor in sort of like how people relate to money. And if and you can do this in our community, we've done it in others. If you go around in a circle and just talk about everyone's relationship to money, it's amazing the stories that everyone has and how different they are, and just how different everyone relates to it in an emotional, psychological way to money. And to me, that's like, it's getting more personal than class, and class is one part of that, but we're still a small enough community that we don't like break down into like social classes. It's not like, oh, there's the rich people and they hang out at the rich place. It's like, no, we're all doing the same things, we're all together. It's more like there are times when it's clear that some people are struggling just to make ends meet and some people aren't. But there's a whole bunch of reasons that go into that are way more complex than like where their economic background is, or it's way more complex than just class. People sometimes worry about, could people be oppressing each other, or like, either economically oppressing or like in decision making or something like that. And in a close-knit group in a small town, I just don't think that happens as much. And especially a small town that's like rooted with a lot of egalitarian values, rooted in consensus, even if we're not still making decisions that way, I don't think we're going to be having lobbyists, who are throwing their money around to be able to, influence decisions. I think that there's still going to be power dynamics, but the people who will be more influential in decisions are people who are like more active in community and more active in community process, who have the social skills and the charisma and the ability to be persuasive and articulate, and are willing to put the time into writing proposals and going and talking to people. Like, those are the people with power in community.